Okay, hello man. How has your year been so far?
The year has been just very eventful. We got to take a few months off at the beginning of the year, January, February, March, and then kind of hit the ground running in April with rehearsals and getting overseas. And it's been pretty nonstop since then. And the rest of the year is pretty much all booked out, and it's nice to have a full schedule.
Yeah, for sure. Did you have like a ample time to rest now before you go to tour, or are you just straight up, one night and then you're off?
It's definitely we having the time off over the winter definitely helped, but
That's good.
gradually getting back into the swing of things.
Hmm.
If you have too much time off, it kind of
Oh yeah.
it like hinders your ability a little. So I like the kind of like fast pace,
Hmm.
3 shows, day off, like kind of thing. We have a day off today, and then playing in Paris tomorrow on a headliner, and then play with Metallica the next day. So you kind of get your rest in when you can. But for me, I kind of like just keeping it going.
Hmm. What do you do if you're not on tour in to stay in shape or do you have that sort of momentum still because you're not playing but you're home and you have to do something. So what is something that you do to
Yeah.
keep yourself kind of in check?
I have a practice space at home. I live in Buffalo, New York. I've had a practice space there set aside for coming up on like 3 years now. I've been in the same spot in 2020. Once everything kind of shut down, I needed to have a place that I could go, and I was
Hmm.
to go daily to kind of keep up my chops a little bit. So when I'm home, I have a kit set up. Not too far from my apartment. And, I head over there once, every few days and practice for a couple hours, just enough to, let my body remember how to play drums most of the time.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine, if you don't play in a while, you get a bit like, rusty or something because
Oh
it's
yeah.
intense. You do intense stuff on the stage, so it's
Yeah. It's
good.
always different too, because just going and practicing by yourself is,
Yeah,
it's nothing like playing a live
yeah,
show.
for sure, for
You
sure.
kind of
Yeah.
have to force yourself to maybe like overdo it a little bit just to have the
Mhm.
same feeling.
Yeah, and it's hard because even if you're trying to, you will always still perform a bit more when there's people because you always
Oh
kind of
yeah.
when there's people you're like, oh yeah, but when you're alone and you think, okay, now I'm gonna push a bit harder, you never reach that sort of because I would
No,
assume that people
no,
give you the energy to.
the adrenaline's never really there.
Yeah, for sure. And you were just in Finland actually a week, couple of weeks ago or something. How was the show for you?
Man, I'll tell you what, having our first show in Finland be a headliner, and a sold out headliner, 1,000 plus people in Helsinki, that was just it's one of those moments where you kind of realize what you're a part of,
Mm,
and one of those moments that um, solidifies that you're doing something that's maybe a little bigger than you thought. Because going to a country, going to a city, going to a venue that you've never been to before, not even a support, not anything like that,
mm.
and being able to sell out the venue and have a really really good show was just, it's a really cool feeling. I don't think I've had that kind of pride
Mhm.
lately. I mean, a lot of the places that we've
Okay, yeah.
been and a lot of places we've been playing have
Mm.
been repeats. We've played in Paris, we've played in Hamburg, we've played in all over Germany, but getting to Finland and having that show was very very cool.
Yeah, and it was definitely, I wasn't there myself, unfortunately, but it was one of those shows that a lot of my friends and colleagues and people were talking about, oh, I can't go there. So they were really like sad about it because it was sold out
Yeah.
and stuff. So they were like, oh, I really want to see them, but, I miss them now. And so you were definitely
uh,
like a hot thing right now in Finland that people wanted to see you guys perform. So
that's
that's
very
really
cool.
cool. Yeah, it's really cool to see.
We were after the show, we were able to go to the the Riff,
Oh yeah, the bar.
which is a cool little metal bar, and they had
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the Children of Bodom lounge
Yes,
open
yes.
for us to go and hang out, and it was just very welcoming. You know, they loved having us, and it was really nice of them to invite us over there after the show. It was very cool.
Very nice. Yeah, did you meet any fans there also?
Yeah, there were plenty of people there that were from the show. You know, you walk in and you kind of know, like, all right, this is the place where
Mm.
I belong. It's a lot of
Hmm.
people, you know, that just look like they just came from a metal show. So yeah, it was cool, kind of being treated like, um, you know, like a little VIP kind of thing. You know.
Yeah, for sure. And we also do interviews there quite often, actually, because it's a nice
Oh, really?
environment for that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
such a
yeah.
nice environment because it's themed heavy metal rock kind of. So, and you can see many musicians walk in and out, because I don't know, it's
Yeah,
just a cool place to be in Helsinki.
I liked it a lot.
How was the audience in the Finnish show? Were they really into it? How was it for you? Because of course you're a bit farther from from the audience
Yeah.
there, but still.
I think that they were very receptive, and you know, we have a lot of moments where
Hmm.
you can tell how the crowd is going to be for, you know, a sing along part or you know, a call out or something like that. And there's one, because we've been opening with funeral arrangements. There's
Hmm.
the Wrath of God lays beneath the soil, the big call out right before the breakdown in that song, and that's kind of how I gauge how the crowd is going to be,
Hmm.
is if Spencer puts the mic out
Hmm.
or if he does it himself. And I remember having him put the mic out, and the crowd did it for us, and I was like, all right, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah. Do you hear it much? Because I assume you have in-ears, so it might be harder to hear everything. But can you hear all the audience through that? So I guess that would be like a good
That's
sign if you hear like.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very good sign. We do have a crowd mic on stage that faces the
Yeah.
crowd, and we can feed that
Okay. Yeah.
into
Good.
our in ears a little bit. But I get a lot of what I hear from the crowd through either Spencer's mic or a little bit of that crowd mic. But if the crowd is loud enough and you can hear it through your in ears, it's you just, man, you just know. And it's so hard to kind of keep our persona on stage, you know, our kind
Mhm.
of like, you know, try to keep it together. But when something like that happens, I can't help but smile, and I have to like look away and try to like not look happy on stage, but it makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's hard to be like a serious horror metal band when you want to smile and
Yeah,
be all happy, but you have to have that sort of appearance.
yeah, you
For
know.
sure. Yeah, sometimes I wonder how like these death metal and black metal guys do it because their music is so like cult and heavy and shit, but
Yeah,
when there's
man.
audience singing, it's hard to.
I just can't help it, you know, and you know, and that's like why we do what we do too, is to feel that connection and to have that
Mhm.
um you know, energy put back at you. And you know, I can't help but like be happy about what I'm doing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. When you mentioned that you were in the bar, of course, and you saw this Children of Bottom stuff, is there any Finnish metal band that you like or listen to, or maybe outside of
Honestly,
Finland?
I think that Children of Bodom would be the only one that
Hmm.
I've you know, been familiar with at all.
Hmm.
You know, I'm
It's a good
you
one.
know, Miles, who's playing guitar with us right now, he is, you know, I think that he would say that his favorite band in the world is Children of
Yeah,
Bodom.
yeah.
So, you know, I was kind of going along with what he was saying. He was teaching me a lot about like why the lounge was there,
Hmm.
like, of like teaching me about the background to that. And you know, I've heard of tons of Children of Bodom songs, but I guess I didn't really know, um, you know, the like the local,
Hmm.
like how they're like heroes in Finland.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, it's a good one to have, I think, one of the better ones, I think. Of course, there's a lot of bands, but there's certainly one of the crowd favorites here and outside. So that's a good one to listen to, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
very cool.
Now, like you said, you're also preparing and playing with Metallica, and you have already played with them opening, and you will return to Finland again next year to play with Metallica. So,
Yes,
how does
yeah,
it feel to
it's
be? Yeah, how does that feel? Like, I can't comprehend, the idea of like, okay, you're opening playing with Metallica because legends. So,
I mean, they're the biggest metal band in the
mhm,
entire world, and
yes.
they have had that title
Mhm.
for, you know, the majority of their careers. That's something that's the hardest part for me to comprehend, is like, it's not like they took the spot from somebody else. Like they have been the biggest metal band for almost their entire careers. And when we got the opportunity to open for them last year in Las Vegas, our first show with them, you know, we kind of assumed that this was just a one-time thing. They wanted some new blood to open the show. It was us. They added us on. The show was already sold out, and they added us onto the bill just to be cool, just out of the kindness of them and their crew's hearts. And they are the best guys too, best dudes, best crew. And apparently they really liked us. They liked our crew, and they invited us back to do 2 more shows in the US last year. And then when I found out that it was going to be a 2-year long, you know, world tour, I mean, there was no words. Like, you can't really, you don't know who to thank. You don't know who to like express your gratitude towards. So you're just constantly doing it to everybody that you meet, no matter what crew member you're meeting or band member you're meeting. It's just like a constant like state of, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. This is something that, you know, is a 2% of modern metal bands are going to have the opportunity to have, you know, to have a show like this. And the Amsterdam show was awesome. And, you know, it was cool just seeing some familiar faces and their crew and, you know, have them remember who we were. And I'm very much looking forward to Paris and let's see where else we're in. I believe Hamburg. We do 4 shows over here with them, and then to think that next year I get to say that, oh, well, you know, we'll be here again next year with them, and it's already all planned out, and it's crazy to have stuff planned 2 years in advance, basically.
Yeah, that's a rare luxury to have like such big concerts planned already, you know, in advance. And like you said, you know, they're such crazy guys because they, of course, have this history of taking these new bands because they don't have to, you know, they don't have to take them nowhere, but they're still always picking up, you know.
I've said this since our first show with them, is that they are probably, them and I think Rammstein are the 2 metal bands, at least, that could sell out any arena, any stadium that they want by themselves. They don't need any support. You know, your Iron Maidens and your Megadeths and your Def Leppards, they all do like big tours together, and then they go and they sell out a stadium together. Metallica's never needed to do that. Metallica can just go and play by themselves and sell out 60,000 cap, but you know, but they want to bring along Architects, and they want to bring along Five Finger and us, and it's just such a cool feeling.
Yeah, and you can think about, you know, what it means to you guys, you know, and Architects, when they in the past have bought bands like Gojira and Lamb of God when they were like coming up. So now those are also huge bands that people love. So that's always, because it is like legit this new audience, new coverage, you know, new exposure when you play with Metallica, because even people who are, let's say, not looking out for new metal, when they see you play with Metallica, they will immediately kind of see, okay, you know, this is some cool stuff, and you have that sort of stamp of approval, you know, because Metallica is
exactly. It's one of those, if Metallica likes them, then I'm going to give them a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we were pretty worried about the reception at the first show, especially like in America. You know, I didn't know if the fans were going to be into it, or if they were going to boo us off stage, or like I was like ready for bottles to be flying. And you know, first thing, like I said, they added us onto that show after it was already sold out, and we got on stage and there were people in the front row wearing Ice Nine Kill shirts already, and it was like you know, just we felt very accepted by not only them and their crew, but by the fans that you know, maybe didn't expect to be seeing Ice Nine Kills, and then, you know, subsequently then enjoying Ice Nine Kills. You know, you see a lot of like older metal fans that are there to see Metallica, and you kind of see this look in their eyes when you start playing and we're wearing tuxedos and Spencer's got a chainsaw, and people are like, what is about to happen? And then by the end of the set, you can tell that you've kind of won them over a little bit. And yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, that's true. The music is a big part of it, and like you said, you have all these theatrical elements in there, and because that's something that's also been always part of metal. So I think that's something they can really grab onto, because horror and all this show is part of metal. Even
Yeah,
Metallica had big
it's
stage
entertainment,
productions. Yeah, of
Oh
course.
yeah.
Yeah, and they've been touring a lot with Ghost also, who might be one of the bigger ones to do it today. This kind of
Yeah.
showmanship. So, what is something in your live show that you personally really enjoy having?
Right now, I mean, I will say that it's kind of, part of our, our set and our aesthetic, but personally, my drum kit, which is made to look like bloody popcorn buckets,
Mm.
made by SJC Custom Drums, is, it's now what everybody kind of knows me for, is the guy
Yeah,
playing
okay,
popcorn
okay.
buckets.
Yeah,
So that's kind of cool. But during the set now, we have multiple stage actors and people that come out in costumes and kind of hype men, people dressed up as Leatherface with chainsaws, and Chevy comes out and as multiple different characters, and one of her big gags now is in the shower scene. If we're playing a club or a venue that's, not in the daylight.
yeah.
Unfortunately, this gag can't
Yeah,
really work
yeah,
if we're playing a festival or if
of
we're
course.
playing with Metallica in the round, because you can see all around it. But having a shower curtain set up with a light behind it so you can see the silhouette
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Spencer, kind of like stabbing down on Chevy for the psycho scene. I
Mhm.
think that's very cool. And when that is nailed, I mean, from the audience, it's such a simple gag, but it kind of like has a theater um, a theater quality to it, where the scene gets set and then just a simple lighting trick tells the whole story, and you can see everything happening. And it just feels very like old school theater,
Mhm.
which I enjoy a lot. I come from a very musical theater family. So,
Yeah.
I grew up seeing a lot of plays and a lot of musicals that my parents were in, and seeing cool stuff like this be brought into our set and kind of relate to that as like, my dad and my mom are really going to like this bit that we just did,
That's definitely cool that you can have something that you're so familiar in with your childhood and actually kind of implement it, but in like a new way, because you're of course doing like this modern metal and horror thing, and there are people like Alice Cooper who did it their way, and now you're doing kind of your own new interesting
Yeah.
way. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of those things where I don't know if my parents ever expected me to be in this kind of. I mean, they were always supportive of my, choice, 15 years ago to start touring and to be in metal bands and stuff. But
Mhm.
I don't know if 15 years ago they would have realized that I'd be in like a cross between theater and metal music and horror movies,
Mhm.
like kind of like the combination of everything. And they really enjoy coming out to the shows, and I think that their opinion on what our show looks like matters a lot to me, and I know that it matters a lot to Spencer too, because he knows their background.
Mhm.
And he really enjoys when they enjoy something too.
Would you consider having your parents feature on like some role in your
I would
shows?
I would love to have my father
Yeah.
come and actually direct our stage show.
Yeah,
I
okay,
think
that
he'd be
would be
great.
cool. Yeah, I mean, you never know. Maybe maybe you will have that. That would be
Yeah,
cool
maybe
because family thing.
yeah, it would be very cool.
And now, what else would be something that as now years go and you get more like you can invest more and have more actually more production? What is something that you would like to add to your shows in the future?
I think, I mean, definitely we had the privilege of having some pyro
Mm.
at one of our shows in Massachusetts on the Trinity of Terror Tour 3. Pyro was very, very cool. I know every band kind of wants it. So, I mean, that's just something that I think, it will go well no matter what. But it kind of just, it makes those big moments hit even harder. And it kind of has this like, jump scare factor to it.
Hmm.
Like if people don't know it's coming,
Yeah.
fireworks and flames and stuff definitely can scare people. And I think that's a very cool thing that we would love to do in the future more. I would love to implement even more moving set pieces. Like I said, like the shower scene kind of comes out and gets placed. The scene happens, it gets moved off stage. I would love to implement more of a set, you know, if even if the stage was already set, like you know, Patrick Bateman's apartment from American Psycho, if we had couches on stage and like the bedroom and the bath, if it was already one big scene. And you know, like I would love to do costume changes, and I would love to do little scenes in between songs. I think like really leaning into making it a theatrical performance and kind of having it be 50-50 music, 50-50 you know, performing in another way. I think that would just be so cool to have the set. We just saw Sabaton play in shoot, where were we? We had an off day, and Baby Metal and Sabaton were playing.
Yeah.
And we went and saw, and like Sabaton's whole thing, their drum riser is a tank that literally with like a gun on the front of it that shot fireworks. I was like, man, that's really setting, like that's setting a scene. Like that's a whole different level of production that I like can't wait to get to.
Yeah, it's cool that you have all these, like you said, Sabaton and even Baby Metal and other bands who already have this kind of how it can be, so you can see how it's also what you can implement. And you have bands like even in the horror, you know, you have Finnish Lordi who also do this kind of horror thing.
Lordi was opening, they were opening that Baby Metal Sabaton tour.
Yeah, I remember. So yeah.
We got that. Yeah. We got there right before Baby Metal played, so we missed Lordi. But that was something that I was looking forward to, because like I said, that's something that we can relate to. And even, you know, we played with In This Moment at Red Rocks last year, and you know, even that was something. You know, we had you know, we had our bit of production that we had, and then when In This Moment came on, I remember standing with Spencer and just being like, we can do something like this too. Like I can't wait till we can do this, you know.
That is very inspiring to see somebody, and you can kind of, you know, we want to do this, and you knowing that you're capable of it also, because you also doing already this stuff. So that's very cool. Now, musically speaking, will there be like a third part to your Silver Scream series?
It's definitely, I think that in the world of movies, especially, trilogies are definitely the, you know, the biggest thing. If you've made a second one, you know, you're probably going to make a third one. And we've been joking around a lot about how the next one is going to be in 3D. So so yes, I do foresee the third Silver Scream record to be, you know, in the same theme. I think that closing everything out with a trilogy will be pretty cool. And if there is an actual way to make it 3D, if like you have to get 3D glasses to see the CD booklet or something, I think that would be a very cool idea.
I'm sure you can come up with something, you know, because once you get into that creative mode, you know, there's on the sky is the limit, because you start to have all these like crazy ideas. And now the Silver Scream series features, of course, these songs that are inspired by classic horror movies. But what if you were to make one like concept album of one horror movie? What horror movie do you think would lend itself enough to become like a full-blown, you know, like rock opera concept album?
Yeah. I think that it would have to be something that has a lot of movies in the franchise. You know, it would be hard to do an entire concept record for, you know, Cabin Fever or Hostel, something that kind of has like one, you know, and then like maybe a spin-off later, you know. So it would have to definitely be something, you know, in the world of Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, like the real classics that have anywhere from 8 to 10 movies that you can, you know, really flesh out the story throughout the whole album. And even if each song is, you know, based on one particular movie in the series or something like that, I would love to do, I think Halloween would be my pick, because I love Stabbing in the Dark so much. And I think that Spencer did such a good job at giving a voice to a villain that never speaks.
Yeah, well
So
said. Yeah.
the challenge of getting inside Michael Myers' head and creating, you know, a persona for him in lyrics is just very cool to me. So if there was a way to do that type of song 10 times, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure you can, because you already did that song and all the others, so you already have the idea of how to turn that into, music.
Yeah.
That's definitely cool. So, speaking of Halloween, what if Rob Zombie were to call you and say, "Hey, I'm directing this movie. You make a soundtrack." What movie would you want it to be?
Oh man. I would personally, for me, if Rob Zombie were to remake a zombie movie, I think, like a Dawn of the Dead or a Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah,
or
any Romero movie,
something in that vein, man, I would love that, because I zombie movies are my favorite in the genre of horror. I'm a huge zombie head, and Rob Zombie obviously, is an incredibly talented filmmaker, and I think that his style with a very like gruesome zombie movie would be awesome, and I would love to be part of it.
Yeah, that's true. And like the thing is that the remakes are very much the thing right now, and musically speaking, there haven't been like much. I don't at least think like a lot of metal soundtracks, because I remember 20 years ago there being many of these horror movies that had, they had what they had, Rob Zombie, Static X, and stuff like this. So it would be cool to have this like new age metalcore, what you're doing, this new modern stuff added to this world.
Yeah, I remember back maybe 2010 or 2011, um, you know, Trustkill Records or Bullet Tooth Records was doing, the soundtrack for Saw 4 or Saw 3 or something like that. Or, I know my old band Defiance, we were on like the soundtrack to a movie called Orphan Killer or something like that. And, but, looking back on stuff like that, movies like Underworld and movies like, even like The Crow and stuff like that had really cool soundtracks that had, maybe bands that people might not have heard of before, but people got into those bands because they liked the movie and got the soundtrack. And, they heard Memphis Mayfire on the Saw soundtrack and were like, who's this band? So yeah, I mean, I would really, I would really enjoy being part of, something like that crossed over even more than our crossover already is, actually being involved with, a musical supervisor for a motion picture would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure, because you have all these like great horror movies, these new horror movies that have become like legendary now, stuff like, Midsommar and, the Conjuring series and whatever, those big hits, but they don't have like that sort of soundtrack with bands in them. They have music, of course, composed, but they used to have, all this. Of course, in the 80s they didn't have. They had soundtracks, but in 2000s they had a lot of horror movies with like real bands playing. You would have Mudvayne or something, playing in a movie. So it would be cool to see like a new like blockbuster horror movie with maybe you or whoever in it. So.
I agree, man, and I think like the new Halloween movies that came out, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, and the new Scream movie, like, man, we could have been there. We could have been part of that. And I don't know, like even in the new Scream movie, we have a little cameo ourselves. We're on a poster on the fridge.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so there is an Ice Nine Kills poster in Scream, and Spencer's making connections with people in Hollywood that are definitely going to flourish. I think he knows. He talks with the director of the new Scream movie all the time. He communicates with the people from Terrifier. We met the cast of Terrifier, the director of Terrifier. They came out to our last New York City show. We hung out for a long time. So he's making these connections that I think are going to make it possible for more of that crossover to happen.
That would be really cool, having like Terrifier on your like stage show. That would be so cool. Like one
Yeah.
song he comes
Oh,
out.
yeah.
That would be terrifying actually. Like the name.
Yeah, and you know what? And whenever they make Terrifier 3, I mean, I know they know it already, but we are all willing to get killed in that movie.
And turn it into a music video would be also cool. Having
Exactly,
you die in the end,
yeah.
hunted by Terrifier, and that would be really
I would
cool.
love that.
Yeah, I mean, not maybe you're dying, but it would be cool. Cool in the video. Okay, lastly, I'd like to just ask this question that I usually ask everyone: is what would you like to see change in the music industry now in the future?
What would I like to see change in the music industry? I think that I would like to see tour lineups get a little more diverse. We just did last year. We did basically a full year of touring with Black Veil Brides, Motionless in White. We did a few tours with Slipknot, or we did a few shows with Slipknot. A couple Metallica shows, but the majority of our year last year was spent with Motionless in White and Black Veil Brides. And as much as I enjoy both of those bands and both of those crews and all those people, it kind of got to a point where I was like, man, we're not making any new fans at this point. We're playing to the same demographic. We're playing to the same group of people, every night. And there's nobody new coming out to see Black Veil Brides that doesn't already know who Ice Nine Kills is. There's nobody, the crossover is there. I would like to see, tours that are kind of styled in the way that Warped Tour was, where you could go to Warped Tour and see anybody from the Acacia Strain to This Wildlife. If you liked acoustic music, you could go to the acoustic tent, and if you liked heavy metal, you could go see Suicide Silence play. So I would love to see, venue and club tours be, hey, here's an Ice Nine Kills, playing with, the main or even you're a Day to Remembers, but to have a band like Dying Wish open and have like a really heavy deathcore band, and then have have maybe a post-hardcore band, and then a metalcore band, and then a pop punk. Like, I would love to see it like change up a little bit, because I want to play to new people. I want to be playing to people that maybe are there to see, Sum 41 on their farewell tour. Sum 41, if you're listening, Ice Nine Kills, direct support. That would be really awesome. That's like a prime example of, those guys are all metalheads, those dudes, but they've been playing like this cool pop punk metal like fusion. And I'm sure there's a ton of Sum 41 fans that have never heard of Ice Nine Kills and would really like Ice Nine Kills. But we're never going to get the opportunity to play in front of groups like that unless touring kind of expands its limits a little bit.
Yeah, that's true, because there's always people who are like, they don't know that they would love you because they haven't heard of you. And I really like this idea because back in like 2020 or something, I talked to Nergal from Behemoth, and they were playing here in Finland. There's this festival called Provinci, and he was laughing because they were playing there. It's not a metal festival. It's like this festival for everything. We had like Finnish pop, rap, and then we had like Cypress Hill, and like pop punk and some folk music from Sweden or something. And he was saying that he was laughing because, he was so intrigued, like, why are we playing in this like flower power festival?
Yeah.
And they have all these, bands that are not metal, and then Behemoth suddenly. But he was actually happy because he said, like you said, he loves the idea that there's so many people who are not normally listening to this, but now have a chance to see it.
Well, that just happened with Knocked Loose at Coachella, and like true. Lorna Shore.
Lorna Shore, yeah.
They played like Lollapalooza last year. That's just so cool because you saw those crowds, and they were just as big for those bands than they were to see Modest Mouse, and it's just something new, and you never know if people are going to like something new unless you give it to them. So it's the only way to kind of get out there is to play for people that are kind of questioning whether or not they're going to like you or not.
Yeah, absolutely true. And it's funny that you said, because Lorna Shore is actually playing in the same festival now as like Behemoth. So now they are like with all these pop under parts, and then there's Lorna Shore.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, me too, because and people actually like it. You wouldn't think that you have like these people who listen to list pop or whatever, and then you would think that they would hate when now there's this suddenly this deathcore band, but they're actually intrigued. They're like, okay, I've never heard anything like this in my entire
curiosity
life.
Really, curiosity really gets people, and then people are like, wait a minute, do I like death metal?
Yeah, that's true. Because they don't normally wouldn't give it a chance. You know, I'm not gonna listen to that. I wouldn't like it. But now they're kind of forced to, in a way. Of course, they can walk away, but they have opportunity.
Right. But I mean, it didn't look like anybody walked away
That's
from
true,
seeing Knocked Loose or seeing Lord of Shore at those festivals. I think everybody was glued to that stage.
And if somebody did, you know, they just didn't have a good taste. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need them.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, man. Hey, thank you so much for your time and the interview.
Of course. Thanks for having me, man. This is
great.
great.
Of course. Really great. And I wish you get some rest now before going again on the big stages. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, with Metallica.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah. See you, man. Take care.
Bye.